Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sports in the Mitten, powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Adam Biggers, Michigan and Michigan State beat writer for FanRag Sports, and today we're going to get in a little bit to a discussion of Jim Harbaugh's Monday press conference. Usually do this every Monday after I file today's article, so I did that. And that one's on Devin Bush and Khaleke Hudson's importance against Saquon Barkley in particular, so be sure to give that a read. It'll be up at some point today. Either on my Twitter at AdamBiggers81 or on FanRag Sports Twitter at FanRag_U or just at FanRag Sports. Tweet it from both. So be sure to check that out. Chris Hawk, Leoism, Big Bubba Blue. Hey guys, thanks for joining me again. Talk a little bit about Jim Harbaugh's Monday press conference, some of the answers to the questions that kind of stuck with me a little bit. We'll talk about John O'Corn. I was able to get some pretty specific questions into John. I was just kind of curious, and I plan on asking Jim Harbaugh about this tomorrow during the conference call. And then again, Khaleke and Devin Bush. And if you guys missed it, Big Ten Network, so far, Coach of the Year, midway, according to Big Ten Network, Jeff Brown at Purdue, Defensive Player of the Year so far, Devin Bush, and Offensive Player of the Year so far, Saquon Barkley. So that's Big Ten Network's mid-season award. So if you weren't already excited for a pretty good one-on-one matchup when it comes to linebacker versus running back, and again, this is something that we'll see a lot of. The most athletic running back obviously is going to command a lot of Devin's attention. The hybrid tight end, or the tight end, for the hybrid position like what Khaleke plays. So I imagine he'll be on Mike Gesicki a little bit, but he'll also be against Saquon Barkley. Both of those guys are going to be critically important for Michigan on Saturday. So I guess Jay Mays too, thanks for joining. Ethan Lajenas, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'll start off with Ethan's question. Who should be the quarterback on Saturday? Give Peters a chance without much on the line, or stick with O'Corn? Are you kidding me right now, Ethan? Without much on the line, I mean, the season's pretty much on the line. You go to Penn State, changes the trajectory of the season, right? You got to talk about Michigan. You go to Penn State and win, you have to talk about Michigan as at least as a somewhat legitimate contender in the East. Start Brandon Peters, night game at Penn State? No, it's not going to happen, man. They stick with O'Corn. O'Corn's the quarterback. MIC Book, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Big Bubble Blue says, Jimmy knows what this offense needs work. Look at his reactions on sideline last Saturday. And he does. And here's the other thing, Big Bubble Blue. Jim Harbaugh recognized, he called Trace McSorley a really good quarterback. He praised Saquon Barkley. He got a lot of questions about Saquon. I asked one, a couple other people asked. And he knows. I mean, he said that the line, the wide receivers, the backs, he said they're hitting on all cylinders. That was the phrase that he used. So he recognizes, I have to believe, that he's going to have to take, his #1 ranked total defense into Happy Valley and shut down two of the most gifted offensive players in the Big Ten. And don't forget Mike Gesicki either. And Nittany Lions has some good receivers. I'll preview that Wednesday. We'll get into breaking down the stats and everything, full-on preview. But Demario Vaughn says, enough with Peters. Dude's on the bench for a reason, my goodness. Thank you, Demario. Shane Majewski. And it's Shane's birthday, everybody. Tell Shane happy birthday. He says, socks, boo, lol. I like the style they played. Tess. I have a lot of hats. I'm a baseball fan. I'm a fan of certain teams because certain players. I was a big Frank Thomas fan when I was a kid. So Big Hurt always. Let's see. Sean Hole says O'Corn will be the quarterback, Ethan. Yeah, and Ethan, I'm not trying to. I mean, I almost wonder if that question wasn't in jest, man, because think about it. Read it out loud to yourself and think about it. I mean, I know people want to see Brandon Peters. It's just not going to happen. If you guys want to talk about that, we can, but you know that I basically won't budge on what I think and what I've thought all year, all back to the summer. I mean, this is not Brandon's year. Next year will be his window of opportunity. and I'm not saying that we're not going to see any Brandon Peters at all. I mean, I imagine if it's a blowout against Rutgers, that was a game even in the beginning of the year with Wilton Spate still as the starter. I said, okay, maybe this is a game where we see Brandon Peters get some reps, because I expected that there were going to be a few blowouts along the way, at least one up to this point with the Cincinnati game, and I was really wrong about that. So anyway. Aaron Wise says, if we could clean up our offensive mistakes, our D has a strong chance to keep us in this game. I mean, I believe in the ifs and the optimism and the could-be's with Michigan's offense. I'm still at the point where I think, okay, is there a chance that they turn the corner? But, guys, we're at the halfway point right now. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm also saying, look, this Michigan offense, it is what it is right now. I mean, how much better can it get later in the season? And I guess that you can answer that question by saying, well, look at what Penn State did last year. After Michigan, that was like the third game of the season. But the second half of the season, Penn State did find, a lot of identity, did find a groove offensively. I don't know if this Michigan team can do that. I really don't. But, I think that a last-ditch effort, going with Juwan Bushell-Beatty at right tackle, I think that that's probably... At this point in the year, I don't know if that's a permanent decision, but I got to think that it's semi-permanent because Jim Harbaugh is loyal to his players. Jim Harbaugh does, I think, give them enough wiggle room to say, look, here, go out and play. We believe in you. You can go make some mistakes, but if you can't do this, then we're going to have to bring someone else in. And I think that they got to that point at right tackle with Nolan Aluzio. And, at the end of the day, Nolan's last start, he played all the first half except for the final 2 snaps, and it was all Juwan Bushell-Beatty the rest of the way against Michigan State. They get out of there 4-1. They're a 5-1 team right now, and maybe they kind of run their course and saying, okay, we think that Juwan's probably going to be the guy for the rest of the year. I can't imagine it's going to be a flip-flop thing, right? Because it's already taken 6 games for this to happen, and there's been continuous issues on the right side of the line. So I do believe with, given the timing of this, it's probably likely for the rest of the year. So, and Aaron, back to your comment about if they could clean up the offense, yeah, if. And that's the big question, right? If. I don't necessarily know if you're going to get 25 carries and 200 yards and 3 touchdowns and an overtime touchdown, which was a broken play, obviously, with Karan running into the pile and bouncing back out. I asked John O'Korn about that. And while we're at it, guys, go ahead. There's a John O'Korn interview. There's Maurice Hurst interview. And who else did I get? Devin Bush. Can't even remember. It just happened a little bit ago. And Devin Bush. So all of those are on my YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. And then also check out the FanRag Sports channel because Jared Jansen, my video guy, JJ Sports Video, he uploaded the Jim Harbaugh two segments of the press conference. Harbaugh just talking about Penn State in general, and then Harbaugh more specifically on Saquon Barkley. So check those out. And again, guys, I tweeted all those from my Twitter at AdamBiggers81. So just check my timeline and you can find them there. Sean Hull says, you don't throw a redshirt freshman into a whiteout in Happy Valley. I would imagine that's a given. Big Bubble Blue says, I think we will contain Barkley. McSorley will be the difference. One of those guys, right? One of those guys are going to be the difference. And part of it, and I guess this is the anti Saquon's going to tear up Michigan argument, right? Because no running back has broken on. Other than Morgan Ellison, 31-yarder. Then he had the 8-yard touchdown. Michigan's only given up 3 rushing touchdowns all year. Morgan Ellison had the 3rd on Saturday. He had a 31-yard run. Madre London had the 50-yard run against during the 14-10 loss to Michigan State. And then I'm trying to think. I don't think Gerald Holmes. L.J. Scott didn't do anything. I don't think Gerald Holmes had anything. Madre and Gerald were consistent, but they didn't have the big stats. And if you look at any other running back, and especially the way that they defended, they had to defend, it was like 49 runs against Air Force. So Michigan's run defense is pretty tested, I would say. I think that, 2.6 yards per carry, that's kind of hard to deny. And at the same time, we haven't really seen anybody, for that matter, do any running back do anything other than what I just mentioned. So we're looking at 6 games, 2 big plays, a 31-yarder and a 50-yarder. Neither one of those were touchdowns, and only 3 touchdowns given up on the ground all year. So I mean, there is an argument to say, okay, look, Michigan can hold Saquon Barkley, and what did he do last year? And granted, it was early in the season. Penn State's offense wasn't clicking. 15 carries for 59 yards. So, but then you flip that, and then you go, well, look what he did at Iowa. And that's kind of the premise of this article and why Devin and Kalik are so important, because there is the potential with Saquon to just go nuts and have, I don't know if he's going to have 300 all-purpose yards against Michigan, but I mean, there's a chance to where he will have, a big reception, some big runs. There's always that chance there. So I'll go over just a couple players I'll go over in a second for Penn State to watch, but I'll get back to these comments. Chris Hawk says, I lost service. Did I miss anything? No, Chris, I don't think so. Just scroll back up in the chat if you can, if the previous comments are there. If you have a question, just fire away. I'll answer it. Jay Stevens says, as long as Barkley is contained, Michigan should win. Aaron Wise says, if we can hit McSorley, that can disrupt him and cause him to make a lot of mistakes. Well, I'll say this much, guys, I go back, because this was really my only point of reference with Penn State. That Big Ten championship game last year, I mean, Wisconsin was getting all over McSorley. I mean, he got nailed a few times, and he is one of the toughest quarterbacks in college football, no doubt in my mind. And I'll always laugh about this because I asked him about just tough physically. He's mentally tough. He doesn't, a guy who doesn't get rattled. I know that you hear people say that about other guys, but I mean, Trace is one of those guys. And I asked him, like, you're tough, you take a lot of pain. How is that? He told me he used to bang his head against the wall when he was a kid. That video is actually on my YouTube channel too, so if you just go on there and search it, I do have some interviews from last year's Big Ten championship game. Check that one out with Trace McSorley. I believe that I got that one on camera. If not, I know I recorded it, but he told me that he'd bang his head against the wall as a kid. So, hey man, whatever floats your boat. Robert Cialone. Right? I said it right. Adam, how you been? I've been doing well, Robert. Thanks for asking. Big Bubba Blue. Peters will play against Rutgers. There you go, guys. Machine Unit. I'm catching up to these comments, guys. Our offense has to pull their collective heads out of their butts, and our defense cannot be committing all those penalties against Penn State. I expect us to lose by 14. Yeah, if you guys want to talk about penalties, well, it's like 16 total, 11 for 98 yards, 3-on-1 play. Kalik offsides. I want to say that was a third down. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to go back and look at the play log, but I want to say it was a third down, and Kalik offside, Brandon Watson cornerback holding, Maurice Hurst roughing the passer, Peyton Ramsey. 3-on-1 play. That had never happened. I don't know about Jim Harbaugh's entire coaching career, but that has never happened since Jim Harbaugh's been in Ann Arbor. That was the first time. And we're talking about, I mean, what's been another word that they've used for the defense, during the past couple of years and even a little bit this year. I mean, backbone, spine, all that kind of thing, and disciplined as well. And that was not a disciplined defense Saturday. Not entirely. Not what we're used to seeing. Phase Food says, I get the whole not putting Peters in the whiteout game, but why not before? He could throw better than O'Korn. The guy threw for 58 yards. Peters. And Phase Food, I see this argument all the time. I mean, that's what you're assuming. I mean, here's the logic behind it. The best quarterback is going to play. Michigan's not sitting on Brandon Peters as a way to irritate, all the Michigan fans in the world. And Jim Harbaugh is not in some back room, this is so funny reading reading social media, and these guys want Peters so bad, and they're playing the best quarterback. They're 5-1 right now. John has essentially started 3 times if you count the Purdue game when he came in the first quarter. He's 2-1. That 14-10 loss to Michigan State, and that was in 3 interceptions, 5 offensive turnovers. I mean, he was there were opportunities for him to help Michigan win that game right there. They're going to go with John O'Korn, and that's the reason why John O'Korn is there. And then I asked John, and again, this interview's on my YouTube channel, Do you think that your ability to make plays, and I specifically referenced, he scrambled. It was in the first quarter. They didn't get the touchdown on the drive, but it led to a field goal. And he scrambled. There was nothing to be had at all. And next thing you know, it was a nice pass too, 17-yard pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and that kept the drive going. And John O'Corn deserves credit for that. Can Brandon Peters do that? I mean, I don't know. Is he doing it in practice? I don't know. He hasn't done it in a game, and we can't base the spring game. You know, I know people keep going back to the spring game. He was the best quarterback in the spring game. That was a scripted event basically for Brandon to get comfortable. Wilton Speight has always been the number one quarterback at Michigan. That's never. I mean, I know Harbaugh said there was a 3-man race, and then it was Wilton and John had separated themselves, but it's always been Wilton's job. I don't want to go on that whole tangent, but back to your comment, Phase Food. I mean, Peters can't be worse. I mean, yeah, he can. Yeah, he can. I mean, isn't that what you guys said about Wilton with John O'Corn? Put John O'Corn in. Wilton Speight sucks. John O'Corn can't be any worse. It's not just a quarterback problem. It's an offensive line problem. It's a wide receiver problem. If Wilton Speight couldn't deal with all that stuff, I mean, John O'Corn, is having trouble dealing with that stuff. Brandon Peters sure as hell won't be able to deal with that stuff. That's just that's why Brandon is number 3. All right. I'm off that. Chris Hawk says, Jim Harbaugh can suit up. Michigan still isn't going to win this game. I mean, someone commented on the previous podcast and said something, I should make a video. Am I going to make a video after Michigan beats Penn State because of something? I said no chance. And I did say that. Michigan has no chance of winning this game. I don't believe Michigan does have a chance of winning this game. The only chance Michigan has of winning this game is if we see the defensive performance of the year from these guys. And I'm talking everybody, everybody basically having a career game. I mean, Devin Bush and Cleek Hudson will be critically important. That's what Jim Harbaugh said. And, I mean, yeah, they're going to be really important. Pressure from the defensive line is going to be important. And I actually had a conversation with my good friend Matt Pargoff of Maize and Blue News. You guys follow him on Twitter, read maizenbluenews.com. He does a great job. He and I were wondering, his question was, can Penn State's offensive line, because he hasn't really seen Penn State's offensive line do anything impressive so far this year against any defensive line. And then, on Saturday, we're not talking about just any defensive line. We're talking about Michigan's defensive line. So, but I think that Michigan's defense will have to score a touchdown for sure. That's just how it goes. I mean, someone's going to have a pick six. Noah Furbush is going to have to, if it's Tyree Kinnell or David Long or somebody, or Noah Furbush is going to have to, or Devin Bush, he's got a team high 5 pass breakups. Somebody, or, let me spit it out, Noah Furbush scooping up a loose ball in the end zone. Something like that I think is going to have to happen. I just don't see Michigan's offense being able to keep pace with Penn State's offense. And the counter to that would be, well, Michigan's defense. Penn State's not going to throw up 30, 40, 50 points on these guys. I mean, this might be an ugly game. I mean, I can see that happening. And I think it's getting to the point with the defense where they won't admit it, but they need something from the offense. And I know that they say that they take pride in, going out there and shutting teams down. But if you're a defense and you just got off the field, your offense is coming off a, short possession or a 3-and-out, no points. I mean, how much of that can you take? You've already had a half a season of it. When is it going to stop? And, that's me assuming, that some players must feel like that. I mean, I feel like it's a natural conclusion, human emotion. At some point, these guys have emotions. At some point, these defensive players, if not to each other, or at least probably privately to themselves, are thinking, hey, it would help, if the offense could go out and get a couple touchdowns a little bit. So anyway, Leoism says, DBs will need to play big and run support this weekend. Yeah, well, Khalek's gonna be there. Tyree for sure. Josh Metellus, and we talk a lot about Josh Metellus. Josh Metellus saved a touchdown against Indiana. Josh Metellus made a big third down tackle, stop a drive. I believe it was Morgan Ellison. I mean, Josh Metellus has been, you have the top tier stars right now of Michigan's defense: Mo Hurst, Devin Bush, Chase Winovich. Then you have that second tier of stars on Michigan's defense, and I think that's Josh, Kalik, those guys. Shane Majewski says Tressel ball with tough defense had some chances on the deep ball play action to tight ends over the middle. Need to hit those plays. Keeps the defense honest. And Shane, if you want to know, if you want to hear what John O'Corn had to say, he was asked a little bit about some routes and everything. And it's at the end of the video, the John O'Corn video. Go ahead and check that out. John explains a little bit about it to where, yeah, it looks like okay, the go route's open. But the design of the play was to, let's say, hit Sean McCune, 5 yards in the flat, something like that. To where, okay, look, we're watching on TV or there are fans in the stands and they're like, that guy's open, oh my God, John O'Corn. The play is not even designed. And I mean, yeah, they'll take advantage of that if that's there sometimes. But right now, I think John O'Corn is specifically following orders. I think that's one thing too. I mean, I don't know how much leeway he really has. I think Wilton Speight had a little bit of leeway because he had proven it and earned it. I don't know how much leeway he has. That's something that I plan to ask Jim Harbaugh. Is John O'Corn just simply, line for line following game plan? What changes is he allowed to make? That sort of thing. So yeah, that deep ball might be open, but at the same time, the play was designed, 5-yard route, McCune in the flat, and that's what he's gonna do. So, but yeah, check out the video. I think John does a better job explaining it than I do. Machine Unit says O'Corn needs to use his check downs. Machine Unit, check out that interview. Jay Steven, if O'Corn plays like garbage again with 50 yards passing, then I say we have nothing to lose with Peters. Well, Jay, let's say they go in, they're 5-2 after Penn State. I mean, is there really? There's still nothing to lose. I mean, they're still a 2-loss team. It'll take a lot of help. I do think a loss at Penn State pretty much will take Michigan out of the race for a Big Ten championship. But at the same time, Penn State's gonna have what? It's Michigan, Ohio State, and then Michigan State. I mean, Penn State's getting right into the grinder too. So, I could be wrong. We'll see. We'll have to see how Penn State survives its next 3 games, but I think 2 losses for Michigan will probably be it. Aaron Wise says Michigan 24, Penn State 17. Demario Vaughn says, you think the run game can keep it close in Happy Valley, Adam? I mean, again, if we're talking about, and this will be a game where I think guys are just going to have to play out of their minds. I mean, Karan Higdon, 25 carries for 200 yards. I know a lot of people have been wanting to see Karan. I mean, how can he keep this up? And there's one thing I do want to do. I mean, Karan's already basically, if you look at his stats, he's like 20 yards short of what he had last year. Like 2 carries short. He's got 70 this year. I think he had 72 all of last year. He had 6 touchdowns last year. He's got 5 this year. I mean, Karan's going to double, in theory, double what he did last year and probably end up as Michigan's leading rusher if, but Michigan's run game has been in spurts. It's been there. I think I graded it. It's a solid B. It's been there. It's like the 3rd best rushing offense in the Big Ten, but you do get it in spurts. Like Ty Isaac, all of a sudden Ty Isaac has those big couple games. He is undoubtedly the #1 guy. Michigan fans are, give it to Isaac. Ty's the guy. Next, Chris Evans has a big game. Well, Chris is #1 now. And then Karan has a big game. And I mean, I understand that people get excited about it, but it goes back to Harbaugh's hot hand comment that he's made several times. The guy who's got the hot hand's going to get the ball. So, I mean, is it going to be Chris? Is it going to be Ty? Is it going to be Karan? I don't know. Was this Karan's huge burst of the season? I mean, it was a career high. I mean, and 3 touchdowns and, essentially a game-winning touchdown. Well, essentially, probably his 59-yarder I thought was game. I tweeted it. I guess a little bit underestimating Indiana's offense, but then that touchdown in overtime too. So, I mean, 2 critical touchdowns, not just 2 touchdowns, just 2 critical touchdowns. can he even do a fraction of that every week? I mean, I don't know. But I'm willing to bet that down the road, maybe Chris Evans will have a big game. Maybe Ty Isaac will have a big game. If it's not Karan. I do, the point I'm trying to make is, though it's been spotty and though, it's kind of hard to tell who it's going to come from, Michigan's backfield has, through 6 games, proven that it has a little bit of oomph to it. It's not what I thought, earlier in the year I described it boxing. Chris Evans going to run you around the ring. Karan's kind of the body blows and Ty's a knockout. Well, it hasn't evolved into that yet. I think we've seen like little bits and pieces of it, but it hasn't even gotten close to what I thought it would be. But there's still a little bit there. TJ Bellware says, I haven't been this hopeless going into a game since Brady Hoke was the head coach. That's bad, TJ. Chin up, man. It could be worse. I mean, they're 5-1. Aaron Wise says Penn State's D isn't exactly locked down. Okay, I'll give you that, but Michigan State's O isn't exactly threatening. So you gotta balance the two. Sean Holst would love to see more Walker. Trying to get through these guys. Marcel Woods says this is why Harbaugh spent the night at the Nordines. Quinn from 56 to win the game. I mean, maybe. I mean, Quinn Nordine is this guy is going to kick on Sundays. There's no doubt. I tweeted the other day, he's had a career's worth of highlights in 1 year. I was promptly corrected. I meant 1 year just as in this year. But yeah, a half a year. I mean, and he's had a career's worth of highlight kicks. I'm getting back up there. Guys, I'm sorry if I missed your question. I tried to get to them all, but I've got flooded with a bunch, plus I'm motor mouth. Not going over. Should just hop on real quick and go. Frank Lucas, do you think O'Korn has a bounce back game? I don't. He has to. Matt the Destroyer says, I want to see more Isaac Walker, less Evans, even though I like Evans. Dale Terry is still screaming, put Peters in since spring game. Dale, keep screaming, man. It's not going to happen. I know. People want to see Brandon Peters. It's not going to happen. Leoism. Yeah, Sean Holst, Kareem isn't ready. If he was, he would play more. Isaac is still talented, just needs more snaps and better blocking. That's valid. I mean, guys, the guys who are getting the majority of carries, or reps or whatever, are the ones who are best, according to Michigan's coaching staff. They're not going to put out guys, and I know that fans, media, everybody likes to question the decisions, but I mean, you have to put yourself in the mind of a coach. They're not going to start this guy knowing he's the second best at what he does. I mean, everybody out there gives them the best chance to win. I mean, yeah, I want to see more Kareem Walker too, but I mean, if we don't know the circumstances behind why did he just get 1 carry? Big Bubble Blue says there was one drive last week where Indiana couldn't move the ball, but they scored because of stupid penalties. Matt the Destroyer 2 says, I think Michigan should hire Brady Hoke at offensive coordinator. Sean Hull says, at Matt, I think Evans is being used wrong, running a lot between the tackles. He needs space. Evans is better in space. But, I mean, that 49-yarder, someone tweeted me this the other day, that 49-yard touchdown against Purdue, wasn't that right up, that was right up the middle? Right between the tackles? Left side, actually. And I think it was right between Ben and Mason, or Patrick and Ben. Leoism says Lavert Hill is showing up big now. First turnover in a while. Yeah, Lavert Hill is he's pretty good. Lavert is pretty good. He's getting a lot of attention. I know Jordan Lewis was tweeting about him. Richard Sherman. I mean, Lavert Hill's got the makings, I think, of everything that you want to see in a lockdown corner. Phase Food says, no, they're not playing the best quarterback. They're playing the most experienced quarterback. That's about it. You could play trestle ball with Peters just like you could with O'Korn. Okay, Phase, I mean, I'm telling you, John O'Korn's the best quarterback that they have right now. Wilton Spate was the best quarterback that they had. And, I mean, if you're talking about experience, I mean, yeah, John's had some experience, but when's the last time he played a bunch of games? It's been 5 years since John's been a starter. I mean, yeah, he's got the football IQ and the age and the practice experience and things like that. John is better than Brandon. I mean, this is the thing. I don't know why people can't wrap their heads around this quarterback thing. It's not what everybody looks. It's like some fantasy dreamland people are spinning, and there's some Peters conspiracy. It's pretty cut and dried, actually. So difference is Wilt and O'Korn are both Hoke recruits that have hit their ceilings. Well, do you know who recruited Brandon Peters, Faye? I mean, that whole Hoke recruit argument holds no water. Someone please tell Faye who recruited Brandon Peters. Matt the Destroyer 2. John O'Korn just needs to step up. Frank Lucas, if we were 6-0, would you give us a chance? Well, and no, because Frank, even at the beginning of the season with Wilton Spate healthy, and I thought Michigan would be 6-0 going into this game. I thought Michigan would beat Michigan State. I still thought this was a 50-50 game, and I was still kind of leaning toward Penn State. Check the preseason stuff when we were going over the schedule and early in the season. My feelings on this game haven't really changed, other than more in favor of Penn State. I always looked at this game as this was a likely loss for Michigan, regardless, 6-0 or with Wilton Spate. But yeah, I did expect Michigan to be undefeated. Because I figured Michigan would be a 9-3 team, so lost at Penn State and probably lost to Ohio State. Wasn't quite sure on Wisconsin, and I even tabbed Michigan State as 50-50, not so much 50-50, more in Michigan's favor, but Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State were the games that I figured. So, and if they lost to Michigan, lost to Michigan State, I just don't see Michigan beating Penn State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. I think this so far what we've seen, this Michigan team gets a win against one of those, and it might maybe Wisconsin, maybe, but I was never confident Michigan, Penn State at the beginning of the year, even before Tariq Black's injury, which has hurt the offense, and Wilton Spate's injury, which has hurt the offense. So, at Matt the Destroyer, Faye's Food O'Korn was recruited by some dude at Houston. Well, guys, and Jed Fish went out. I mean, Jed Fish was big in getting John O'Korn at Michigan too. Jim Harbaugh liked John O'Korn. I mean, a lot of people. And here's the thing too. It's like people have gone from when he transferred in and everybody wanted him over Wilton last year to, he's the next big deal. I mean, John O'Korn's the guy, and look, he threw for 3,000 yards, and now people just cannot stop panning on the guy. So, I mean, it's hard, I guess, with fan logic and just kind of rational thought with some people. I mean, it is literally one extreme to the other with John O'Korn. Why Faye's Food? Yeah, Faye, I don't know if anyone told you, but Jim Harbaugh recruited Brandon Peters. Faye's Food says some no-name recruited the kid and he benched his sophomore year. Why are we riding and dying with him? I mean, there's a reason Michigan brought him through. I don't know. Some of this just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, guys. Sean Hole says, going to be a tough game. Michigan's D is great, but not known for putting up points. From what we've seen from the offense, don't see a way we put up enough points to win. And Sean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I almost said it jokingly, right? I mean, Michigan's defense is going to have to get a touchdown. I mean, and you can't always rely on that. I mean, Michigan's defense is going to have to play the game of the year that it's played so far, and the same thing is going to be for Michigan's offense. We haven't seen anything consistent. We've seen a little bit. It's like kind of just puttering along. I'm trying to think of an analogy. Just, I don't know, use your imagination. Something that putt room. It's like your car like running out of gas or something. I mean, you press on the gas pedal a little bit, it'll go, but then it just sputters along a little bit. It's not going to give you a nice, smooth ride. MIC Book says Cron has to match Barkley's energy, not to compare because Barkley is better. Just saying he has to match Barkley's intensity and play tough. Tough task, but I think it's possible. I mean, if they're gonna ride Cron's got to have it in his mind that he's the best running back on the field. And I know that, and I agree. I mean, Saquon Barkley, there's no argument there. But if you like get in the mind of like what they're thinking, I mean, if Cron, in order for Cron to go out and match that intensity, he's got to say, you know what, Saquon Barkley is not heads and tails the best running back on this field, I'm pretty good too. So if he thinks along those lines, yeah, I agree with that. Matt the Destroyer 2 says every one of our defensive players is a star in my opinion. They all have their own talents. There's not one weak link on this defense. And guys, I was talking with Jared Jansen, my video guy today, as we are walking out, and I said, nobody's talking about Brian Monet, and Brian quietly had a good game against Indiana. I feel like Brian's just there, and it's because Chase Winovich is having a really big year. Rashawn Gary, Jim Harbaugh talked today about the level of attention. So many getting chopped and chipped, and so many guys paying attention. So much attention on Rashawn Gary. It's unreal. And then Maurice Hurst, Mo's had a huge year too. I mean, Brian Monet's been in there. Brian Monet's been steady. So yeah, I mean, if there's one guy that we haven't talked about really at all on defense this year, it's Brian Monet, and I don't think there is a weak link on the defense. Matt the Destroyer 2 says our defense has 3 scores last year, and we are already up to 3 this year. We nearly got a safety on MSU. I mean, the defense is going to have to have that mentality. Tyrone Sensi, hold on, I got to read this one, Tyrone, first before I say it. Everybody knows why. This is still not very smart comment, but whatever. Tyrone Sensi, because BC never had a good offense, and never had a good offense, and it never stopped them from playing lights out on defense. It's obvious you gave Michigan little chance because you're a Sparty. Okay, yeah, that's why. Tyrone, I think outside the realm of a fan. We're looking at a number 2 ranked team, night game, Happy Valley, which is never an easy place to play. Michigan has no offense to speak of. I mean, I know in your mind Michigan's going to win every single game, and Michigan's the best team in the country. I know, Tyrone. Yeah, Frank Lucas. Jim not trusting the offense is hurting Michigan bad. Guys, here's another thing, too. I think it's easy to talk about coaching and, what the coaching staff's making mistakes. The coaching staff isn't doing this. Think of it this way. Look at what the coaching staff, particularly on offense, look at what they have to work with right now, and they're still 5-1. So, I mean, I think if you could flip it and actually say, hey, maybe this isn't that bad of a coaching job. Would any other staff be 5-1 given no offense and only a really good defense? I mean, if you look at it, there are a lot of teams I think that survive on defense, but with no offense, you can't really do anything. So I think if you put this situation, at another school with another coaching staff, would you be confident and say, well, these guys would still be 5-1 with this team? I wouldn't. Because, I mean, let's face it, Michigan 5 turnovers away. One of those offensive possessions, a touchdown, is one offensive possession away from being 6-0. If, you look at it like that, the Michigan State game. A few more questions, guys, and then I'm going to get going for the afternoon. But again, I'll have the kind of statistical preview. I'll get into, players, who to watch, that kind of. I know I said I'd do a little bit today, but I'm going to hold off. We'll do it Wednesday because we're already going on 39 minutes. Couple more comments and questions, though. Harbaugh the GOAT says these wide receivers haven't been good. Let's stop blaming O'Korn. There's another reason. I mean, it's not all on the quarterback, guys. It's just very easy, I feel like, for people to pile on the quarterback. Harbaugh the GOAT continues, even though he missed DPJ a couple times. Big Bubble Blue says Kareem looks really fast. That one carry had a lot of burst and size. Matt the Destroyer 2 says Kareem Walker is the future. Harbaugh the GOAT says Kareem should be our second back, but for whatever reason we only gave him the ball once. I know, guys, it's so easy to come to these big conclusions off one 8-yard carry. I mean, let's temper it a little bit. Phase Food. I don't know, I could read that one. Secondary. Nittany America. Your secondary is average at best. No one could cover Penn State tight end. Nittany America, I disagree. Michigan's secondary is pretty good. It's all on Hardball Jack. Harbaugh watching Indy tonight, his next job. Oh, Nittany America. Thank you for joining. Countering a little bit. No, it's not. Nittany America, do you have any question? Would you like to ask the final question since you're obviously a visitor? Most people who watch this show are a Michigan fan, very few Michigan State fans. Would you like to ask a question? Then by all means, you are invited to do so. What is your O going to do? My O is not going to do anything. Are you talking about Michigan's O? What is Michigan's offense going to do? That's a good question, Nittany America, because Michigan, like I've been saying this whole show, your O. Well, I think you're mistaken. I don't talk in the context of we, I am not, like I said, this isn't a, people who watch this, it's not a Michigan rah-rah fan show. I'm not a Michigan fan. I cover Michigan. So please rephrase your question. What is Michigan's O going to do is, I don't know. And that's entirely up to the offensive line. Offensive line played decently against Indiana. That's going to be a big difference. I mean, Michigan's offensive line, right side, hasn't been consistent at all this year. So I think that if it gets similar performance that it got from Indiana, I don't see why you don't continue running the ball. I don't see why, give Karan Higdon the lion's share of the carries. I mean, he's got the hot hand right now. So what I think Michigan's O is going to do is possibly rely on what worked against Indiana, and that was run the ball. Hopefully that answers your question, Nittany America. Frank Lucas, we have been saving Peters for this game. Tyrone Sensi, you just admitted you're not a Michigan fan. I know, I've been saying that. I'm not a Michigan fan. What does it matter? I cover Michigan. That's my job, Tyrone. Nittany America says, run the ball. No, not happening in this game. Well, I mean, I think that's probably Michigan's best option because Michigan hasn't really been able to pass the ball that well. So, and then if you look at 25 carries for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, Karan Higdon, I think that it's probably safe to say that Michigan would like to put the ball in his hands a little bit. I know a lot of people wanted Michigan to go to Karan a lot more against Michigan State. So, okay, and here's the case too, Nittany America. When you can pass, we can rack the box. I know, I mean, if a team does something well, your team can counter it and do better. I mean, I know. I love the fan logic. I love it. Nittany America, you're absolutely right. I mean, whatever Michigan tries is not going to work against Penn State. Even though I do think Penn State wins this game, I just think your logic is a little bit flawed. Jason White says, no one can put up 30 at Michigan except Ohio State. Well, we're about to find out. I mean, Indiana put up 20. Okay, Nittany America. If you have constructive questions, now you're just being a troll. Matt the Destroyer, Jason White, Frank Lucas, who has Penn State played to be so overhyped? Trio City says, can Michigan defend up-tempo Ohio State offense? I don't know. I mean, it had a little bit of issue with Indiana's pace, right? I mean, Indiana was the first team to score on Michigan in the fourth quarter all year. If you would have told me Indiana was going to score 10 points, I had a 24-10 Michigan. And that looked pretty solid. I was pretty pleased with that. And then Indiana found something, and I think maybe that was a point where Michigan's defense was getting worn down a little bit. I mean, you can only be the strength of the team for so long, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Or give credit to Indiana's offense too. So, it's either or. But yeah, I didn't think that. I mean, if you told me Michigan give up 10 points in the fourth quarter to Indiana, I probably would have laughed. Penn State is better than some Michigan fans give them credit for. They're legit. And Phase Food, I've been saying this all year since the preseason. I think guys who watch, anybody out there that's been watching the podcast for a long time or reading my stuff, I've been saying watch out for Penn State this year. And no, Penn State's overrated. Penn State's overhyped. Saquon Barkley, isn't that good. Trace McSorley sucks. I mean, I heard it all. All right, guys. Now, Nittany America, you're just trolling. So, all right, guys. I appreciate all the questions. Again, read that piece. Devin Bush, Khalil Hudson will be critical pieces in defending Saquon Barkley. Pretty good running back. And that's going to be a great matchup, I think, between Saquon and Devin, and then probably Jasecki a little bit and Khalil. But I think it's going to be Khalil and Devin primarily on Saquon. Of course, Trace McSorley poses a little bit of a threat too. So read that article. And it's on FanRag Sports, at FanRag_U, at FanRag Sports, FanRagSports.com. Follow me on Twitter, at AdamBiggers81. And as always, thank you for watching the live stream on my channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you want the audio-only version, you can find that on iTunes, Google Play, and on the FanRag Sports Blog Talk Radio channel. So again, I'm Adam. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time, which will probably be, like I said, Wednesday night. I might do something Tuesday or tomorrow night after player availability, but I'll have interviews up on my channel. If not a podcast, it'll be interviews with whoever they give us tomorrow night. So, and tomorrow during the day, Big Ten coaches call. So if you want to hear what Mark D'Antonio and Jim Harbaugh and some other coaches have to say, follow me on Twitter. That starts around noon Eastern time. So thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.